discipline myself and go 7 minutes.
Okay.
And if you have questions, then
sounds good.
it's your doing.
Then it's on us.
Yes.
Yes.
I want to start with
It doesn't look like 7
this
minutes.
document, and I will send it to you electronically because I think people like things electronically as well.
Yeah, because some people weren't able to come tonight and they really wanted to be.
And there's also extra, so if you want to take it back. Since the letter that went out to the Washington and Jefferson communities in October and the start of our task force, we have received a lot of questions. Now, I think that tells me a lot about the state of the community. I don't want to be vulnerable with you if you don't mind. I think initially it indicated to me that there was a lack of trust with the district. I think that it also indicated to me that the level of knowledge that we have to have as school leaders, that you need to have as PTA leaders, may not have been where we needed to be for the district to be as strong as we all want it to be. So in working with Sarah Ellis and our team, I felt that it was important to have all of this in one place. Because I think a lot of people, what we were starting to find were people were asking variations of the same question. So we've placed all of these questions in a table of contents. There may still be other questions, but we believe since late October, if there are questions out there that we haven't answered, we would love to receive them, but we feel that we've answered a vast majority of the questions. And I think the other thing, and if you were so inclined to watch the board meeting on Tuesday night, we've uncovered, I believe, an unspoken theory of action and policy in our district as it pertains to open enrollment. We've been using open enrollment in a very deliberate way, but not officially. And I think we've just been able to answer that question, and now the board and the community will have to decide for the next 20 years, because I think we've been using that strategy since 2005, so almost for 20 years, when the decision to close or not close at the time Wilson Elementary School only was broached by the board. Since then, we've been using an unofficial strategy. And that's okay, but I think it's time for the community to say, this is the strategy, this is our theory of action, and we want to move forward. So I wanted to provide this to PTAs because this will also be the foundation when Mr. Brightman and I go to PTAs over the next few months. We're going to encourage your membership to make sure that if they have questions, this should be their starting point. The other thing is we're going to have an administrative team meeting. This is a pivot point for me. We're going to have an administrative team. We have administrative team meetings monthly where the principals come in and they meet with us. We're going to give them a school finance primer. My logic behind that is your school principal should have the ability to answer your questions around school finance. If they're unable to answer it, what we've been sharing with them is it breaks down the trust again between the PTA leaders and the overall district. Because if a principal can't answer the question, it shouldn't be Keith Brightman will answer the question. There's some basic information that it shouldn't be punted to the district office. There should be a basic knowledge level that all of our principals should have. And what I'm finding is that the schools that are navigating these issues and starting to have really strong and good conversations around these issues, the principals are the ones who are they're coming to the school board meetings or they're watching online. They're asking us questions in service of being able to then answer the question of a PTA leader the next day. When I was a principal, I had to make sure that I knew what was happening at the district level as well as running my school building. If I didn't have that ability, then it starts to erode the confidence, and I'll use that word, the confidence that people have in the overall organization. I gave Rita I'm going to use that as the pivot to say, I gave Rita a couple months ago, and I think she sent it out to all of you, information around...
I can, not yet.
Yeah, okay. Around what is the role of the principal. And so what I want to share with you now is at the core, we have 6 standards that we utilize to evaluate and to judge if principals are doing well. For those of you who watch and follow our board meeting agendas closely, you know that on Tuesday night, we went into closed session and we talked to the board about principals and how they're doing. The way that a school district works, my ultimate job is to make sure that the principals are doing their role. The board has one employee, and that's me. They don't evaluate the principals. But their job is to make sure that I am doing my job, and that is to make sure principals are doing theirs. Heather and I had an exchange right before winter break around what should be important. There's opinions out there. I think there are some who will say, well, maybe family engagement and the role of the principal in family engagement should be a priority. What I shared in that email exchange, and I will share with you, is that the board and the community shared with me upon my arrival that there were 2 priorities. The first was academic achievement. Dan Gagalo's not here tonight. But a few months ago when Dr. Marble and I were here, he if you remember, he said, how soon will we see improvement in our scores?
Dan Gagalo.
Who else joined us on the Zoom? There's another person.
iPhone 4
iPhone 4. Okay.
But, and Dan, since I've been engaged with him, has been consistent in that. But that's just not Dan. It's been throughout this community. People have said, we've seen our scores decline. We're uncomfortable with it. The other thing that has been consistent is people have said, we want safe schools. When people tell me that they have children who are not using the bathroom because they're afraid to go because of things that are happening in the bathroom, that bothers me. That's unacceptable. Right before winter break, there was an altercation and a fight that happened at our cross-town rivalry game, which was unfortunate. So when you look at these standards, Standard 1 and Standard 2 has been expressed to me as the number 1 standard that we need to prioritize. The board has told me, my employers have told me, Standard 1 and Standard 2 is critically important. Now, that doesn't mean, for example, family engagement is not important. In fact, if you look at Standard, what is it? Just had it. Standard 5, and specifically 5.9. 5.9 is that is a component of family. It doesn't excuse a principal from doing 5.9. They are expected to do 5.9. But the priority is Standard 1, specifically 1.2, and Standard 2, specifically 2.7. I like to say to people, we can do anything, but we can't do everything. And so the community has shared with me, Standard 1 and Standard 2, that has to be your priority. But that doesn't mean that everything has to fall by the wayside and that you have to be that tunnel vision. What I would contend to you is that the role of the principalship is hard. And that we expect these folks to do a lot of important work. The last thing I would say, because I think I'm coming up on my 7 minutes, is that when I arrived here, it felt as if important things that in most school districts the principal would answer, they were being filtered up to the district level, and we were asking district administrators to answer. And that bothered me. And that's not efficient, because that means we're not serving the schools at the school level well. The role of the principal is not to simply make certain families feel comfortable or to keep things quiet. And when I talked to veteran principals who were here, they told me that was their job, to keep things off the desk of the superintendent, to keep everything quiet. We don't want principals that are going to keep things quiet. We want principals who are going to attend to academic achievement, to keep safe schools, where you can hold all of us accountable. Not only the district administrators, but specifically your administrator, your leader, your principal, is through your school growth plan. If at your PTA meetings on a monthly basis, they're not giving you an update on how the school growth plan is moving along, there's something wrong. Because I can tell you that Dr. Marble and I go to every school every month. And I was at a school today, and that was my first question. How's your school growth plan? Because that's the commitment between the principal and you. And if they can't tell you that, then there's something wrong. And then the last thing I would tell you is, if there's some level of interest that's beyond Standard 1 and Standard 2 in your school community, so if in your school community you want to focus on 5.9, then as a PTA, then you need to go to your principal and say, I think we're lacking in 5.9. I think we're lacking in family engagement. We need more events. We need more something. And then that should emerge and be part of your school growth plan moving forward. So I want to pause and stop, and there's a lot of paper. And again, I'll make sure that you get all of these in a digital format, but I enjoy having the ability to answer your questions. Yes?
The presentation you'll be giving to principals about school finance, do you know when that's going to be? Because what I'm finding is that we get information either from board meetings or here, and then people go back to the principal the next day and start asking questions, but they haven't gotten the information yet. So do you have a date?
They have all the information that we presented to the board. They have that now.
Okay.
And I think that's so that's insightful that you're saying that. So I know there's some principals, they can answer those questions. That should be a bellwether to you. When I was a principal, if I couldn't answer what my superintendent and board talked about the night before, then my PTA president would get on me. That's my answer to you.
So when are they getting the financial primer?
So they have already received it. We're continuing to keep
Okay.
them updated, but we're going to give them I'm using the terminology, a primer. We're going to give them a primer next week, Thursday.
Thank you.
So starting next week, Friday, if you want to pepper them with more questions, they should be ready.
One process question?
Yes.
So I know on the website right now, there's like 3 FAQs, because that's what we did.
We took them all, we put them all together.
Yeah. So we did direct next week, we directed our community to look at those, and please, for the love of God, don't ask it if it's written down already.
I want to thank the Washington PTA for this one, and it was Ms. Hudson in particular that said, stop. You have all this stuff out here. It's one thing to say that information's out there, is another to try to help us pinpoint. And we're not satisfied with this.
Yeah.
I want to go on record. I'm not satisfied. This isn't as user-friendly as I would like it to be, but I think it's getting us closer.
Questions?
I appreciate that those meetings are happening over the next week and such. And I know we also are kind of going off of the board meeting yesterday and kind of some of the things that we're working towards. A lot of the questions that we're hearing from our school right now is what should we be doing now? Because I know again, community surveys may not be coming out till March. We're still kind of waiting to have meetings. I mean, we can direct them to this information and things, but understanding that we're kind of working towards, and I'm talking about, collaboratively the district growth plan, the fact that we have to work towards, some deadlines in August. What should people start doing in the next couple of weeks while we're still kind of pulling a lot of information and things like that together?
So in 2 weeks, we have the Wisconsin Public Education Network coming to the district. And it's that event has been
January
published.
17th.
January 17th, Rita and I have been working with WPN, Underwood and their is it a PTO? Their PTO president who will do the opening. I think it's really important for community leaders to be at that event because they're going to teach how to be an advocate. So that would be one piece of advice I would provide. The second is, I think it's really important for community leaders to get really comfortable with this data and candidly start hosting coffees in homes. It doesn't have to be large, just a group of 5 people. Go meet at a coffee shop and talk and nothing else, just have conversations about this. What I'm feeling and learning about this process is that and I've shared this with our principals, it can't be Damon and Keith Brightman who have the best handle on our school finances. If Joe Russell doesn't know the school finances as well as I do, and he can't answer your questions, then that erodes things. But I think the same holds true for you. You shouldn't depend just on Eric Jessup Anger to know this information as better than anyone else. You should know it as well as Eric. Because, candidly, people are going to come to you before they come to Eric. They're going to come to you before they go to any other board members. So, for this potential referendum or referendums to be successful, we're going to need to have, if I'm thinking about a community of 50,000 people, if we could have 250 people who know this well, I'll put them on the spot. If we could have people who know this as well as Rita or Chris, 250. Because then what's going to happen is those 250 will then filter out and talk to other people. And so then it's not, and it can't just be people who have current kids in schools. It has to be someone who had their kids graduated 20 years ago. It has to be people, you're going to have to reach out. This is true coalition building at this point now. So number one, come to the WPN event on the 17th. The second is start hosting small coffees and just talking to one another. And then I think the third is continuing to track what's on our website. When that survey comes out, take the survey. When there are other opportunities to make your voice heard, make your voice heard. And that's going to all lead up to what I believe, and here's my main talking points that I've been sharing. We know that if the state funding pattern continues, we have a $61 million budget shortfall. We know that we have at least $99 million in deferred maintenance. And that's just the basics, like changing windows and roofs, and that's not making model schools, that's just basics. So we have to decide what we're going to do. And I realize that there may be a tolerance level of, there's no way the community is going to pay for $160 million of referendum dollars. That may be true. And so that survey is going to really be important, because if the community comes back and says, well, our tolerance level is 100 million, then we're going to have to start asking questions such as, so is your tolerance level 100 million, and will 61 million go towards the budget shortfall, or does that go towards buildings? So we'll have to start figuring that out, because then once we know all of those things, then we can start making plans. Then we can decide, so are we making really drastic cuts? Are we eliminating things? Or are we not? I get the sense that the community wants us to tighten our belts in some areas. But generally speaking, the community likes the number of schools we have. The community likes the class sizes that we have. The community likes the programming that we provide to students. There's a comfort level with all of those things. If the answer is yes, I see, but you're the PTA people, so I'm assuming you're going to say yes. If the general consensus is that that's what the community wants, then at some level we're going to have to identify how we make that happen. School finance is fairly simple. It's complicated, but it's simple. And at the core, you either reduce your expenditures or you increase your revenue. and generally you increase your revenue through taxation. Yeah, at the board meeting Tuesday night, I had a board member say, well, it doesn't have to all be referendum, and that's true. I mean, there's fundraising, there's other things, but when you're talking about, and so I want to acknowledge that statement was accurate. But I also want to state that when you're talking about the type of numbers that we are discussing, fundraising and other revenue streams, while really interesting, doesn't really address the big chunk that we have to.
The revenue side too is the state funding, the state needing to provide.
I think the state has made it clear they're not going to give it. They have. I think what we have to do, and I think what's
not right now, but I'm saying we got to keep pushing for that. But
I think this is where I'm jaded. I've been an administrator long enough to know that the state legislature. I had a state legislator. Her name is Alberta Darling. She's retired now. But State Senator Alberta Darling would always tell me that the state funding formula is constructed for school districts to go to their community if they want more money. That's how this is all structured. So she would say, stop coming to us and asking for more money. We've been elected. We've clearly told you how we want to fund schools. If you want more, what she would always say is, if you want more, then go to your community. And if you're not willing to go to your community, then make the appropriate cuts and spend at the level that we're giving you money at.
and that's maybe the consensus here is that we want to keep everything that we have, but there are people in the district that feel that the board and the admin is not spending the money wisely in some ways.
Sure.
So that's what's interesting too.
With a $100 million budget, I am confident that someone can find expenditures that would say, I wouldn't spend it that way. No doubt. And where I've evolved over the period of this conversation with the community is, and that's fair. That is fair. Because there's, for example, one nugget is, everyone has said Fisher's bloated. There's so many people at Fisher. Well, yes, there are more people at Fisher. Because when I arrived, I found out that we didn't have a curriculum. And you had
like 3 people at Fisher, and that wasn't enough.
We don't have a science curriculum, and we claim to have STEM programming.
Yeah.
Let's just drink that one in for a second. We did not have an up-to-date science curriculum, and yet we run STEM programming at our middle schools. We claim to have a STEM program at Underwood. Now, WSTEM is a charter school, and they've kind of gone off and they're doing their own work, but I think that is unjust, and we're doing children a disservice. So again, I would say respectfully, I appreciate the feedback that people give when they say, well, yeah, you're not spending it well. I think when you have 50,000 people in a community and a $100 million budget, I am confident that people will find expenditures that we're using right now. They would say you shouldn't do it that way.
Right.
That's fair.
I think in the last month or so, there's been obviously news about MPS going to referendum and other things. Are we learning anything from our sister districts? Are we doing anything differently based on kind of what everyone else is
They're calling
up
us
against? Okay.
So I think what happened when the news came out, and because I continue to tell the media, we're not closing any schools. It was, there's nothing imminent. I think the news of that, as I've received calls from colleagues and from other school districts, they've said, I'm glad you guys are in the media and it's not us, because we're having the same task force conversation. We're starting to have the same conversations around referendums. They're in essence saying, thank you for taking the hits for us, because, literally, I've had 2 districts say that to us. What are we learning? I think I had one colleague said, what? They said, well, how many questions did you answer? So I think we're well positioned. And I think we have, while it was hard and it was emotional and it was tough, I think what we went through in that October, early November time period was healthy. Because now I think people are prepared, so I love your question of, so now what do we do? I think there will still be some school districts that will start positioning themselves for a possible referendum in May or June or July. I think we're well positioned to say, no, we're talking about this now. Now keep in mind, we can't officially talk about it as a school district, but you can start mobilizing and building coalitions now. And I think the key question you have to ask is, what do we want for our kids? As I listened around at your introduction, some of you said you still have kiddos who aren't official school age yet. My question to you would be, what do you want your child, who may be the class of 2038, what do you want for them? Do you want them to have the type of experience that the child who graduated in 2022 or 2018 had? If you want them to have that same experience, then this is your moment.
So I think...
I don't know if I answered that question.
You did absolutely, and led me into kind of a secondary question, which I hope isn't too broad for this forum, but I think there's a general consensus, perhaps among our population, just being one of the schools that, is potentially targeted for closure, of if the goal is to keep us open, which is obviously what we want, is referendum, are we wasting time? Should we be organizing the community in a more official way sooner, rather than waiting for a task force to provide an opinion one way or the other? So I hope I'm...
Yeah, and I want to just come back on that too, is that the WPenn event, they're going to bring information about what's happening throughout the state.
Great.
For all the school districts, to show us that we're not the only ones and that so many people are impacted. And then the other side is that, Chris has been working behind the scenes and we're going to try to build more coalition, and like with this event, invite a lot of different people and try to get media there, because with us being in the media in Tosa, it is really getting the word out to the community, because we need more than just our school families to know about it. We need the community to be on board. So we can start, like he said, we can start by sharing all the information with everyone right now, and do whatever. If you have other ideas, we can figure out.
I thought it was cool, Rita, that WPenn recognized that we are a leader. So it's not that other districts are. WPenn is saying Tulsa has their stuff together. I think so. To answer your question, I would, if I were one of you, you need to start rallying each other now. Don't, because November 5th will be here sooner than we think.
I think my fear is that Washington, perhaps Jefferson, is becoming very well versed in how we want to proceed and move forward, but we're not sure what all the other unaffected schools, not that exists, but what the other schools, and especially at the secondary levels, what they're thinking. And then that doesn't even begin to touch the members of our community who will be affected financially, who have no kids in school either currently or won't ever. So I guess my desire would be, if referendum is the way to go, and this is too big of a question for you to say yes it is, but if that's the way to go, I want us to maybe get to there quicker.
I think getting there quicker starts with you. Keep in mind that when a referendum is ran in a community, there's typically a separate community group that leads the advocacy, and it's our job as a school district to stay neutral. So there's nothing stopping a group of community members to come together and say, we're ready. And I think the sooner you do that, it sends a message to the school board to say, because I think I've shared with you, we have to make that decision by late August. When I say we, the board needs to make that decision. I think that gives them confidence to make that vote in the affirmative.
Yeah.
So if you're following the NPS conversation, for example, they're asking their administration now to start building all the information that we've already put together to give them so they can consider a referendum. Our board has the information. Now they're just waiting on a task force to give final recommendations. They're waiting on a survey data to give them information. But if there was a group, if there was we're for referendum advocacy group that came together by March, and they just started showing up, hypothetically, just started showing up at board meetings, and every once in a while said, we're here, we're watching, we're gathering the data, we encourage you to really think about this, I think that gives them confidence.
And Chris do you want to add something?
January 11th, WPenn is hosting a webinar about how to organize a winning team to support local schools, is the title of the webinar.
And
It's
I haven't got it, so I'll have to send it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, is that what we're doing on the 17th, or is it something totally different?
I think it'll be a variation of
The
it.
17th might be a
It's likely going to be
variation.
the same deck, the presentation deck, but it's going to be across Wisconsin, would be my guess.
But the 17th is going to be very interactive. It's
In person?
Yes,
Yes.
and it's going to be interactive with our TOSA community specifically. So they'll share what's happening in the state funding, okay? They'll share what is happening with all the other districts. And then they want to dive into what's
it's
happening
open
in
to-
TOSA.
It's open to the
The
whole
whole community. Anybody can come.
So if you have a neighbor who loves public schools, but their children have been out for 10 years, bring them along.
Yeah.
Because they need to be part of the coalition.
And we're having a meeting tomorrow to get kind of talk about it some more. And so maybe I'll get some more information as to like more something to share
like
more
if we
about
want to
it.
post and
I think we
Right.
start
want to do
telling
that.
people
Right.
to.
Now it's January, it's first week, it's like now's
Yeah.
the time to like really get it out there.
I
Yeah.
have one more question though. Damon, I heard something about open enrollment funding possibly changing.
Yes.
Is that real? I mean, is it realistic that that might happen? And that I heard it would be changing, it would be increasing?
It would increase from $8,700 to about $10,000.
Okay.
That's the proposal. The fact that there are Republicans who are forwarding the bill is important because they are in control of the legislature. So the likelihood that
Of it
the
getting
bill
through, yeah.
will pass is higher.
Yeah.
So we're optimistic.
Still doesn't cover, I think, our full cost.
We spent
but-
I know.
$13,964.
I know, I'm on the task force.
And
Yeah, so you get it, but
Yeah. Is there going to be information from last night's board meeting? Was it last night? 2 nights ago? About, did the policy change? Do we
they have
know?
not officially changed it yet. They use.
Did they make changes to the proposed changes, is I guess what I was wondering.
The policy committee is going to take all the feedback that they received on January 2nd. They're going to craft things, and then they will bring it to the board for a final decision and vote on January 22nd.
Thank you.
And I think I think that's one of the concerns too, is that we keep hearing kind of like a yes, but. So like, when we were talking about like, what should we do now? Like, we thought that maybe by last, 2 nights ago, they would have put some information in that matrix and we would have gotten further along. And now it's kind of like in this holding pattern because, they're saying they also want community feedback or other things before they make a decision to impact open enrollment. And we're kind of like,
I think
can you just
I
give
think
us
they're
a
separate
piece?
even though. I think the open enrollment is one aspect and the referendum is something else. So I think moving forward with the referendum is definitely something that public school advocates should get together and work towards. Has anyone from any of these schools talked to anyone from SOS? Because that was
Yes, we're both on SOS and
Okay.
we're on Save TOSA Schools
Good.
group, so
Because that's
involved
who,
in.
that was the advocacy for the first, or not the first, but the
Yeah,
most recent.
But it is one of the things that the community is asking questions about, and again, when I
Yeah.
keep kind of dancing around some of these, like, there's not really a decision around referendum, there's not really, we keep hearing, we don't want to do multiple, like, there's not like a clear, and I know it's not a clear issue, so it's a lot of
I've
yes but.
informally told board members, because they're starting to ask me, so what do you think? If you're asking me today, I think we could pass one referendum. 2 will be hard. And so what we have to decide then is how large of that one. If you're asking me to date, that's where I stand. I think one referendum
So this is
question.
where we have to continue to
But we have to
educate the
decide
community.
I think the
to get
question
to where
that
what
I'm
we
really
want.
struggling with, where we
So-
need your leadership is, so what's the tolerance level? Is the tolerance level at 100 million? Is it at, because now when we look back on what that referendum in 2018 could have been, the dollar amount that they said that they could have built all the schools with, that was a bargain compared to today's dollars. And so I think what I've been telling our team is that it's not important that I can explain this in a meeting or that Keith Brightman can. It's important that you can. And so our job is to give you all the information possible. And the other thing I wanted to get out before I get to some of the last questions is, and I welcome and appreciate the fact checking. And frankly, I love the fact that you, the community leaders, say, I talked to Means, I talked to Demond, here's my analysis of what they're giving. Because people will tend to believe you over the bureaucrat. I think I'm a nice guy. I think I'm a good person. But at the core, you have more cachet in your school community than the superintendent. When there's other things that come along, I may be more important then. But right now, it's really important that we build your collective capacity so that you can answer these things well. And I think you need to lean on us as a resource to give you everything you need so that you can be positioned that way.
Heather.
Is the OE funding change in the state legislature, is that an indefinite change, or is there an expiration date on?
It would be into perpetuity, we hope. And we would hope that number would be the 10,000, and then it would have an inflationary increase.
Because there's increases now, correct?
We would
Inflation.
hope.
So my concern, I thought I saw something about an expiration date, that it would end 25, 26 school year, but then the inflationary increase would kind of be at that point, so, you know what I mean? Then it would just keep going from there. I'm just, because of who's in control, I'm concerned that we could end up locked.
I hope not, but we've been locked since 2009 without having an inflationary.
I just don't want everybody to get excited about that and make decisions based on something that.
I think that's a very savvy statement that you made, and I think these are the games that happen at the state level.
Yeah. Any other questions?
So I know this may be something you can't answer tonight, but if it had to be one referendum, could that be, as been talk about, it's CapEx and it's OpEx, could it be blended? Would it be one or the other? Do you know?
I think there's a way for us to have a little bit of both and give us the ability to increase our Fund 41, which is our capital improvement budget. So in other words, if we had more general fund dollars, then we could make our Fund 41 budget a little larger. But the downside to that is there isn't the ability to do construction with that type of movement. You can repair things and repair more things, but the front wall at Jefferson needs to be repaired. There should be a wing or two at Eisenhower. And I think, because you mentioned earlier about other schools, and I've been telling people this, and when I had a chance to come to your PTA meetings in November, I said this impacts everyone. It's just not a Washington Jefferson thing. We haven't even had, I'm shocked that the secondary parents or parents who have younger kids who are going to matriculate to secondary, you're not paying, your antenna should be really pointed high. Our secondary buildings are in terrible shape. They're in awful shape. And so if you have a kiddo who's in 4th or 5th grade right now who likes science, the path that we're on right now is they're going into a science lab that is from the 1980s.
And you had said, like, at the facilities meeting engagement session, which I don't know if everyone attended, but I think that was a really clear new point that I had heard, was that, like you said, everybody's focused on the elementary closures, but out of that 99 million, only like 12 million was related, like 6 million to Jefferson, 6 million to Washington. So the rest is actually all secondary level work that needs to be done. So I know we were all thinking about elementary and all of that, but like that's a huge number just for a secondary, and all those elementary kids are going to their secondary. So
the opportunity that's in front of us, we've kicked the can. This community has kicked the can down the road for many years.
Yeah.
And the can around what we need to do with our secondary schools, we should have addressed that in a more deliberate way in 2018. We did not. And so subsequently, if you had if you had a 7th grader or a late elementary school kid in 2018, they're now in middle school. They're now in middle school, early high school. What a lost opportunity for those kiddos. And so now they're, I think I said it, Rita, and I'm sorry for talking too long, but the fact that we are not positioning our kids well to compete with Elmbrook. And so we always say, well, how does our scores compare to Elmbrook? I would respectfully say, how are we positioning our teachers and kids to compete with them in terms of the same learning environments? We're not.
Yeah. When their curriculum's behind,
our curriculum's
as well,
behind, and then
not just
they don't have
the
the same learning
facilities they're
environments.
working in.
Can we just say, though, that in 2018, we would have loved to have everything, a fair number of people in the community would have loved to have fully funded what was needed by the district. We had to fight tooth and nail to get what was approved.
Yeah.
The fear was more that nothing was going to get approved in a referendum. So that's where SOS came from, and that if this is going to happen, it's going to take a lot of work.
And I want to be, and thank you for making that statement. I'm not saying that in a judgmental way. And I think you all know, I know the people who were here in 2018. I consider them good colleagues and friends. I'm not judging them, but we are now at an inflection point as a community of what we thought was really big with that $125 million referendum. We potentially will need something larger. The good thing is I think there will be other communities and other districts who are going to ask for even more. And so I think our number, and so I would just encourage you.
It's going to normalize it.
As you are in your Wauwatosa echo chamber of like, this is my neighborhood, just you will have the ability to say, well, look at what Waukesha is asking for. Look at what everyone else is going to have someone. I think that's what WPN is going to share with us.
They're going to have that information. They're starting to collect all that information. So.
I probably exceeded my time. I'm sorry.
I just have one thing. In talking with my state assembly representative, it sounds like there are some reps who are trying to maybe get school funding changed or get money in some kind of package out to districts. And it seems like there's a chance that it might actually happen. So I think that's something we can I mean, I know you're not hopeful.
Right.
But I kind of am.
Maybe,
so.
yeah.
Could we get some information on that to even maybe discuss, see if WPen?
I would think they probably know more about it than I do. But
Share it with me and then I can
And
check
I believe
with them.
in April, there will be an engagement opportunity with our state legislators, so our legislative action, our advocacy committee will do that. Again, please email me, call me. If you have separate questions, we want those questions. We want to be able I view my job as being
check the FAQs.
I view my job as being a resource. And I also need you to ask hard questions of us. I'm a firm believer of iron sharpens iron. The more we can collaborate with one another, I think we are a stronger community as a result. And so just know that I appreciate you. I want to share, I shared in 2024, my resolution is to show gratitude. So I appreciate all of you. You don't have to be here on a Thursday night in January. So I appreciate your leadership. Just know we're here to support you and that we all have the same goal. And the goal is that I believe that this community has unharnessed, untapped potential that we haven't even seen yet. But we have to make sure that our teachers are paid. We have to make sure that our kids have curriculum and that they are in buildings that position them to be the very best they can be. I know you want that. I want that for your kids. And so I'm looking forward to working with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Thank you. So I'm just going to quick go over just like 5 minutes. We'll just do our little business stuff. One thing that I have to check with the state of Wisconsin PTA.